with private sector partners to make internet access more affordable through subsidies, discounted data packages, and device financing. He added that a multi-stakeholder data cost pricing committee, and that comprised telecom providers, consumer groups, and regulators, it was established and it delivered a roadmap for data price rationalization in 13 days. He added that the National Communications Authority, the NCA, it has been engaging with network operators to roll out improved data bundles, including specialized offers for tertiary students and certain demographic groups, as well as the holiday packages. That is closely linked with quality of service, improvement in spectrum management, responding to customer complaints regarding network quality. He says decisive policy decisions were taken, including approving technology neutrality and granting additional spectrum to MTN Ghana and Telecom Ghana. He added that the NCA will enforce rigorous standards within 3 months with stiff fines for non-compliance. Let's start off the conversation this morning on the back of this, talking about improved data services, improved data bundles, and essentially improving the technological space as well. Helen Appiah Ampofo is still here with me. Helen, what has been your experience on data bundle and mobile connectivity issues?
Connectivity issues, definitely a vast improvement from what it was like when I was much younger, and I think we can all attest to that, but it's still not 100%. But in terms of the actual cost of data,
affordable internet access,
oh my goodness, for the how do I phrase this? For the telcos that offer a more competitive rate, you have connectivity issues.
They'll give you good rate, but you can't use it.
But you can't use it.
Okay.
For the telcos that have
higher rates,
you'll find that the connectivity issues are seemingly better.
Right. If you're comparing that,
if you're comparing that,
it does not mean it is good, but just that if you're comparing, it is better.
It is better. So it's not cheap at all. It's interesting that there's a zoom in on those in the creative sector. We know that using data is how a lot of people also make their money, uploading videos and all of that. But it shouldn't just be targeted. I know it's not just targeted at the creative sector, but for all of us, that's how we keep ourselves abreast with the daily news. We communicate. These days, you cannot live without your mobile phone. Even with the much older generation, everybody's glued to their phone. These days, you lose your phone, you've lost your bank accounts, you've lost serious documentation. Everything happens on the mobile device. And so it's a step in the right direction, but it's something that has come up time without number, and we see tariffs going up and up and up and up. If there's a targeted policy to actually reduce this, not only for the creative sector, I think it's in the right direction.
So he said that a multi-stakeholder data cost committee, and that had the telecom providers present, it had consumer groups and regulators. That committee was established to deliver a roadmap for data price rationalization. They did their work in 13 days. It says the NCA has been engaging with the network operators to roll out improved data bundles, and he mentioned specialized offers for tertiary students, certain groups of people, as well as the holiday-specific packages. Then he spoke about the quality of service. But for the pricing committee, the data cost pricing committee, Helen, if you had a word with them, what would you want them to include in their work? Now their work is done, but what do you want to see in the report?
I want, on the outset, some clarification, because I know that there were some talks about the need to regulate the space so that no one entity has the monopoly.
Right.
Which is what I understand. I stand to be corrected. Which is what I understand to be that interference we saw in the previous government as far as tariffs and data costs are concerned. So maybe on the outset, some sort of explanation as to what necessitated that change in data prices. Because if you're on that specific network, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
At some point, it was relatively affordable. If you look at the other brands that are available, we don't have that many, but there are a few that you can juxtapose against that, leading brand, and they were kind of still maybe a little bit higher. You were paying a little bit higher premium, but still it was somewhat affordable for you to get that data and also have a better connectivity. Then we saw, what happened, or at least that interference, which suggested that this telco has to up their price. So that continuous or continued monopoly doesn't exist. The committee did their work in some 13 days?
Yes, 13 days.
How soon do we see that reflecting on our mobile devices?
So after the committee brought it to work to the minister says he has studied the roadmap and then it has referred it to the regulator. Mind you, the committee produced short, medium and long-term approaches to data price rationalization in Ghana. So the ministry has given it to the National Communications Authority under the leadership of the Acting Director General. It says the Acting Director General or the NCA has also held several engagements with mobile network operators to discuss implementation modalities. And the minister, has personally engaged with the CEOs of the three MNOs. You know that we have MTN, there's Telecel, and the Airtel Tigo.
That's right.
And he's pleased to announce that all three have presented the ministry with specific improved data bundles for tertiary students across the country, as well as content creation and gig economy demographics. It says in the coming days, the NCA will finalize the implementation and technical requirements with relevant stakeholders for public rollout. So the expectation is high. It seems like good news because we are all complaining about cost of internet, connectivity
Crosby, the
issues.
cost is high.
Charlie.
I mean, how often are you having to refresh? Is it refresh? You are just browsing, all of a sudden the video is not loading. Why? Because you've run out of data.
They'll send you have used 50% of your data.
I say, hey, how have I used 50% already?
After 3 minutes, 90%.
Now, Ghana's internet data costs are actually amongst the highest in West Africa. Now, to paint a picture, as of 2023, the average cost of 1 gig of mobile data in Ghana was around, and this is done in dollar terms. So
right.
Forgive. This is the article I'm referencing did it in dollar terms.
Right.
So that 1 gig of mobile data in Ghana was around 94 cents. So almost $1. Let's round it up, if you will, to a dollar. According to the worldwide mobile data pricing report by cable.co.uk. Now, while this might seem affordable globally, it's more expensive in countries like Nigeria. For that same 1 gig, you are paying 94 cents. In Nigeria, they're paying about 30 cents. So almost...
I see.
I mean, very low. Senegal.
We're paying like 2 times
almost 2 times what they're paying. Pretty much over. Senegal, 57 cents. La Côte d'Ivoire, 48 cents. If you rank it as super high. And especially in a country where a lot of people are living below the poverty line, it's not competitive at all. We talk about the three MNOs. MTN enjoys about a 65% of the market share. You have that lack of competition often leading to high pricing and limited innovation. Parliaments, governments have not imposed strong price regulations, and you have telcos also citing high operational costs like energy, taxes, and forex volatility. Those are some of the reasons.
The reasons why they want to kill all of us.
I'm telling you.
The funny thing too is that when you buy the internet at that high cost, it finishes in a second.
Like you said, 50% done. Within that time, I know you would have seen that message in another few minutes. You're being told 90% of the data has been used. If Ghana really and truly wants to be part of the digital future, then we need affordable access. How can we justify these prices and at the same time be looking to advance in the sphere of digitalization when it costs so much? It's stifling a lot of creativity, and I think that's the emphasis on targeting younger populations, targeting tertiary students, and targeting the creative industry. For me, if we can be as competitive as our neighbors, we're always comparing ourselves to our neighbors. Let's get it down, just as low. That would slash the cost in half, for example, if we were, in a similar vein as Nigeria, for example.
That's not the only thing. There's also the bit about connectivity.
That's right.
You know that you go to even parts in Accra. For where I live, for instance, until recently, I could not receive ordinary WhatsApp messages in my bedroom.
Really?
I had to come out into the corridor before I could get WhatsApp messages.
Once you enter,
that
it's done.
To the point that when I was speaking with my telco, my MNO, they can't hear me because the network is not good.
It's bad.
And I can't stay in my place, my room, and then get good internet to get proper location to send to them for them to know where the problem is coming from for them to work on it.
We've come a long way.
Yes.
Before, there was only maybe one place in your house where the connectivity was so strong. You see people walking outside trying to gauge. I don't know whether they're trying to gauge the sunlight or the direction of the wind to ensure that they can access the calls. But you're not wrong, Crosby. Even now, there are certain parts, I can tell you there's parts of Nyaneba, a certain special place. I'll not tell you the place. If you stand there, your calls will not come through. You won't be able to get messages. So connectivity issues still abound. And you are paying exorbitant prices. You've come home, you want to chill, maybe Friday, Netflix is on. You want to watch, have a good Friday evening fun.
So the minister too says he has received several complaints about the quality of service of almost all the network providers in the country. So there are 3 of them. In fact, it's for all of them. He says the past week he has taken decisive policy decisions to approve what he's calling technology neutrality and additional spectrum for MTN Ghana.
Please, what does that mean?
So it says that will help these telcos improve their service offerings. So yes, giving them resources, if you like. That's technology neutrality and additional spectrum for MTN Ghana. He has also directed the NCA to offer additional spectrum to Telecel Ghana. They are to provide both operators with more resources to improve their service offering. So maybe.
So what is this actual infrastructure?
Yes.
I'm trying to paint the picture.
Maybe when we speak to the experts,
right,
we'll get to know what exactly this technology neutrality and additional spectrum means and what it will do for the telcos and how we, the ordinary Ghanaian, we their users, we too benefit from it. But he warned this on the back of the approvals. He served notice that the NCA would, within 3 months of the assignment of this additional spectrum, begin rigorous enforcement of the conditions of service on the providers. So failure to provide a marked improvement in quality of service would result in stiff fines. He's saying that the ministry regulator have fidelity to the Ghanaian people to ensure that they get the best customer service and experience.
Interesting. So what, some penalties could be meted out if our telcos fail to comply to give us the service that you and I deserve. It will be interesting to also situate it in the context of what the telcos also say can sometimes make for a not so great business environment. Let's see.
So we're all hoping that everything comes together nicely. And then you are wherever you are, you can make your calls, you can use your internet, and then enjoy good service from your service providers.
And in fact, it's a question that we can ask on our social media handles. So do check us out on X in particular, on Facebook, and also on Instagram. How much are you really spending on your data per week, per day, per month? Do engage with us on our socials, and do let us know how expensive it is for you to stay abreast with happenings. And there's also e-learning. So for some students, they heavily rely on the internet to conduct classes, people that are doing long distance learning as well. How much are you spending on data? Do let us know.
Helen, that's not all the minister spoke about. There's also the bit about misinformation and disinformation. I don't know whether you've been a victim of any of that, and if you want to share your experience with us.
In fact, it's just recently that I have come to understand the difference between misinformation and disinformation. So, Crosby, help me out in case I myself begin to misinform.
It's just a Google away.
It's just a Google away. So, let me pull this up so that we get some much needed education. It's come up many a time. This misinformation, disinformation situation. So, misinformation is not malicious, is what I understand. You might have seen maybe some publication going around, the details of which are not maybe verified or true. You go on to share that information. You've misinformed, but not from a place of malice. Now, disinformation is willful, shall I say malice. You've concocted the information knowing that the information is wrong or the information is false. And so, I mean, these days, even AI, you can see a video, and I can think of a video that has our colleague Alfredo Kanse. The lips are moving all right. You can see that it's him, but it's AI generated. And I mean, for the untrained eye, even, you can kind of tell it's not real. But there are more sophisticated versions where you can't tell, is that the person that's speaking? So advancements in AI have also made misinformation, disinformation even more difficult. In fact, sometimes you can cut the picture of the person that you are attributing some misinformation or disinformation to and make it look as though it came from their social media handles. Because I'm sure you've seen
a lot of them.
Even our network here, Media General, TV33 FM, we are victims of this many a time.
Helen, you hold your horses for me, and let's speak with engineer Ken Ashigbey for some more insight on, this new direction that we are all waiting for. And I'm talking about improved internet service, as well as affordable internet packages and improved mobile connectivity. Engineer, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Thank you for making time for us. Good morning to you. The Communications Ministry, the Ministry for Communication, Digital Technology and Innovations, the minister leading the ministry, he held a press conference yesterday and he spoke about a couple of things. Let's start off with a bit about, connectivity and internet access. He put together a committee, a multi-stakeholder data cost pricing committee that comprised telecom providers, consumer groups and regulators to develop a roadmap for data price rationalization. The committee has finished its work. Now, we're yet to know what is contained in the report, but from where you sit, what would you expect the committee to have included in their report?
Well, thank you very much. And so I'm sure the minister spoke about more than a couple of things, isn't it? He spoke about more than two things.
Yes.
Yes. And the chamber was integral to this committee. And so we've done all the work. We've provided the report to the minister. As he said yesterday, he's forwarded that report to the regulator. So I'm pretty sure we would engage in that. But you're beginning to see from that engagement that he did, some of the actions that the minister is taking. So some of the issues, are around the issues of spectrum availability was also one of the major challenges. So you see that the minister has taken a policy direction of offering one of the networks extra spectrum and technology neutrality, but also taking a step of giving the other also that they should also provide the other more spectrum.
But engineer, so what does it mean? This technology neutrality and additional spectrum, what does it mean and what does it do?
So AT and Telisa were given technology neutrality, which means that for every spectrum that have been given to them, they can determine which technology they used it to run. In the past, we were given specific technology licenses. So you were giving spectrum, and you were to use it for 2G, you were to use it for 3G, you use it for 4G. But with technology neutrality, it means that if the spectrum is given to you, you as the licensee then would determine which of the technologies you want to use them for, whether you want to refarm them, your 2G technology to be able to do 4G and all of that. You are able to do that based on the characteristics of the spectrum that you have, and also what our plans are as a country, whether we've dedicated that for IMT, then you are able to do that. So that is a very good thing, so that we know that recently a lot of the challenges we've been facing with quality of service is the lack of spectrum. And so if you have some of these network providers who have extra spectrum in 2G space, 3G space, but they have it's clogged in the 4G area, then they could refarm and use that in that particular area. So that's one of them. The other bit is also that, spectrum is what all of us ride on. This call that we're having right now, we're using spectrum. And so a lot of, especially Telecel and MTN, they have major spectrum challenges. And so if you give them spectrum, that helps. It even reduces their cost of refarming and reusing the same spectrum, having to then put a lot more, cell sites in place and all of that. It helps with all of that, and it makes it more efficient. It's the reason why the minister would say after providing the spectrum, that he would also be demanding quality of service and quality of experience, from the MNO. So I believe that that's a step in the right direction. And the result, therefore, of this particular minister has been his knack to engage. So for every, of the policy directions, he brings the relevant stakeholders together to be able to do what he has to do. And I'm sure it's on the back of that yesterday. A critical stakeholder is the citizenry of Ghana. So he engaged to be able to talk about the things that he was doing.
Engineer, let's move on to talk about another thing the minister spoke about, talking about regulating technology in today's fast-evolving digital environment. He says he has initiated comprehensive review of existing legislation and regulatory frameworks. According to him, when the ministry took over, the legislation that have been available for the past couple of years, they don't even belong to a technology ministry. He says they should be put in a museum, and the current state of the legislative instrument of the ministry is no good. What improvements should we look for in legislation for the technology ministry?
So you see that technology has moved on. In 2008, when the new NCA Act came, in terms of, I'm sure we had 2G, technology that were running. If you look at the Electronic Communication Act, it's also 2008. The Electronic Transaction Act is 2008. The Data Protection Act itself is 2012. So it's your most recent piece of legislation, critical piece of legislation, would be the Cybersecurity Act, which the minister himself was very instrumental when he was then deputy ranking in the formulation of it. So all of these acts, are acts that we need to relook at, because technology has moved on completely. We're now talking 6G coming up. We're talking a lot of Internet of Things. We're talking all these digital transformation things that are happening. You cannot be using, 0G, technology to want to regulate 6G and 7G and all of that. So it is good that we are engaging. And again, this is another thing that I say the minister does. So the NCA has engaged all of our stakeholders, and we have shared our inputs to the NCA. I'm sure the NCA will consolidate it, give it to the minister. We would all meet again, and I'm sure we would meet again, deliberate upon it and all of that. So I think it's a good thing to happen, so that we make sure that our laws are up to date with the technology that exists, and then there's a lot more certainty, a lot more clarity, a lot more so that, you're able to attract the necessary investments, you're able to, empower our young people to be able to develop the technologies that are required. AI is new. How does that integrate to the things that we do? The way our regulators have been set up, you have an NTA, you have a data protection, you have a cyber security, and there's a lot of interaction. And the tendency to over-regulate is there. One of the challenges you would see with the NTA Act, for example, which for me I think is fundamental, is the whole issue of the lack of independence for the regulator, because the law talks about the fact that the minister may give directives and the NTA board shall, which takes away all, regulatory independence away, because there's been tendencies for ministers in the past to take their policy directives to now become operational directives and day-to-day, and if you look into the Electronic Transaction Act, for example, if you look into some of the exceptions that are in it, you look into Section 4, for example, those exceptions are very constraining. They prevent Ghana from being able to take advantage of some of the new technologies that are coming to be able to get some, virtual work happening, and all of that. And so I believe that the way the minister has opened all of the things up and wanting to be able to engage on that, it's a good one. The only thing I would plead is that yes, it's true, we are late, but because of what we're doing and because for the need to be able to do a comprehensive work, I would urge that, we're giving a lot more time to be able to pull together all the relevant stakeholders, operators, regulators, policymakers, academia, users of the technology, all of us engaged to ensure that we are able to come up with a framework that, moves us forward as a country. How do we benchmark with, other countries that are going somewhere, and all of that, and make sure that in the process we can come up with a framework, a regulatory, legislative, policy framework that is forward-looking, future-proof. Make sure we make it agile as well, so that as changes are happening, naturally some of these changes can happen.
Engineer, and go with me to through the statement of the minister. Now, I'm reading what is said concerning artificial intelligence. So, recognizing the impact of emerging technologies, it says the president made a pre-election promise to develop a national digital transformation and emerging technology strategy, and that is to guide ethical deployment of digital tools such as AI and emerging technologies for development. According to him, the ministry has prioritized dialogue on artificial intelligence to fully assess the opportunities, security implications, and resource demands to ensure that we put appropriate governance framework in place for its use. Now, from where you sit, how do we maximize the use of this while bearing in mind the drawbacks, so we reduce the impact or the drawbacks that artificial intelligence and its wrong use could have on us as a people?
Well, so thank you again. So this again is in line with the strategy of the minister. So there was an AI strategy draft done by the last administration. What the minister has done is that he's convening stakeholder engagement to discuss that particular policy. He shared the policy documents with all relevant stakeholders so that we can review that ahead of going to engage. Definitely, AI promises hold a lot of promise for us as a country. The challenge is that sometimes AI tends to be overhyped, so we need to put that into context. But then the minister has also, there's a big, initiative that he's put up, the Data Hub, where he's pulling together all government data, into one hub, and then putting around it the necessary cybersecurity framework, the data protection and privacy framework, and then I'm pretty sure we'll be able to bring the private sector to also putting some data to that, so that whatever AI strategies that we will be coming up with, these models will be trained on Ghanaian data. And you heard him yesterday, Ludaikli, speak about it and talk about the fact that we needed to train these models on our data so that our realities will be taken into consideration. It will take out all the issues of the biases, that would happen if you don't, you train these models on your own data. It would help us to be able to position ourselves to take advantage of Appiah, to be able to also produce AI products and all of that for not only the Ghanaian market, but also the African market. It would also help us. And so these engagements that we will do, we need to then deal with the downsides of AI. How do you deal with the issues, the three-pronged issues of transparency, making sure that there's a lot of transparency, and also deal with the issues of bias so that you can take out the bias away. You not only biases to do with even, racial biases, the north and the south biases, but even gender biases as well, you take out of it. And then the other big one of accountability, so you introduce AI systems and all of that. How do you hold when something goes wrong? Is it the developer of the algorithm that you're going to hold accountable? Is it the person who applied it? Is it the person who sold it? Is it the person who used it? Especially as now we're getting into the realm of autonomy, so far some of these systems are so these conversations would enable us to be able to deal with them. For me, one of the things I am really happy about this engagement is that it would also help us to focus on our education. We should not only be seeking to train our young ones in the whole coding of the AI and all of that. We should be focused on also providing the mathematical training that is required, that underpins the algorithms, so that our young people would be part of the people developing it. These were courses that were taught in places like KNUST in the past, but we've stopped doing them. These are really very tough math, courses, and it is important that we get our young people to get back into the groove of, studying that and being able to apply that and be part of the people who are developing that, because a lot of opportunities exist. The data we have, the opportunity to be able to do something for Africa, we are better positioned to be able to do that than, the West and the East who are dealing into that. And a strategy like that brings together everybody, would help us to be able to drive this forward. The only thing I'm hoping, and hearing the minister, I hear a lot of foreign people who are supporting this. I will call on my members, even the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, the EMI Chamber, and Ghanaian businesses to also support these particular initiatives, offer our platforms as crucibles for experimentation and, working together with academia, the likes of Academic City, the KNUSTs and all of that, so that we can offer our platforms, get their young people to come in and do things. If you go into KNUST, for example, they're doing some very, very interesting things with artificial intelligence. How do we mainstream that and work together, as a country to be able to develop something that's uniquely for the African market?
Engineer, so the minister, in his effort to save money or clean up the ministry and its agencies, pledged that or announced that on that basis, he will not be extending the Common Monitoring Platform contract, popularly known as KELNI GVG, beyond its current terminal date. This is a subject of interest since 2018 and beyond.
Great news. This is something that the chamber challenged at the beginning, that we're going to introduce this common platform. We made our points known, and but it was not really heeded. We've gone ahead with it, and you saw the minister tell you about how it's, what we are funding it for. The question you'll be asking is that what incremental revenues came out of that? And for me, I hear the minister saying he wants the NCA themselves to do the revenue assurance. You see, the foundational thing about telecommunication revenue is that all the CEOs who run the telecom business, from Leo Skulatos to Stephen Blewett to Patricia, their bonuses are based on revenues that they declare. So when it comes to revenue assurance, they have an interest in making sure that their revenues are properly, reported. The second bit about it is also the fact that for most of these operators, the owner, it's not owner managed. So the owner is not sitting at the telco place, and so he is manipulating the revenue. The owner himself also wants to be revenue assured that for every CD that comes into the business, every person that comes into the business, the owners are reporting it rightly. So revenue assurance is a big thing that happens in all of these opcos. So there's no way that they will be able to hide any revenue. And again, for a very politically charged environment like us, the people who work in all of these telcos, they're not foreigners, they are Ghanaians. So if anybody is hiding any revenue, you'll find it. So I am hoping that whatever model that the minister will get the NCA to put in, it will not be something that would cost you and I as customers that much. But the system that the NCA has, the NCA system, have been deploying all along. So for me, this issue about revenue assurance is just a way of milking the state. But if if the government, the NCA uses some of the models they do in terms of the auditing they do and all of that, they would not need to go and put up an expensive system that takes so much of the revenue. It would be interesting, and I would urge the minister to do, a proper value, for money audit and see that since we deploy this common platform, what has been the value that has come to us? For us as an industry, we've had major issues with it. So I am happy that the minister at this particular point, is going to close that back. And again, I believe that the NCA is more than capacitated to be able to do all of those, build all of those systems that they are talking about, to be able to deliver this. And I am hoping that, whatever new system that will be put in place, the NCA will get some of the local sharp people to develop something for them that they can use, which will not be overbearing. But again, I will tell you that really will not add anything to far as revenue assurance is concerned.
But if the minister is instructing the NCA to begin to hold itself in preparedness to carry out this revenue assurance platform on its own, the question on the minds of some would be, will the NCA be able to do that?
No, the NCA, I beg you, the NCA is more than capacitated. They have the capacity to be able to deliver this. It's not something that we needed to have gone to get somebody to come and do and own and run and all of that. The NCA has the capacity, so I think it's the right thing that the minister is doing.
I see. So talking about some other contracts that the ministry or some other policy directions the ministry is looking back on, he also spoke about the National Information Technology Agency, NITA, and then the DSPP call center as well. All of these, according to him, are things that would need to be, if you like, investigated so that Ghana will save money. He spoke about the Smart in Franco as well. Libera Ghana Limited, e-government agreement infrastructure. What benefits or how important are these reviews to the economy of the National Communications Authority and the ministry in general?
Well, for me, I think I'm happy the minister is not just saying that he's just going to abrogate all of this, but he's going to do an investigation and a review. It would mean that once he does that, he will come up with some options. If there are great things to do, he will continue doing them. If there are some changes that he needs to make to them, he would do them. And I think so that for me, again, it's a good way to go. It's not like just coming and saying, this is bad and I'm cutting it. It's about really looking into it, investigating it. Even some of the contracts, he says he's giving it to the Attorney General to look at it from the legal point of view and be able to advise him. Though he's a lawyer, he's going that route, which I believe is a good way to go. And I'm pretty sure that as the Attorney General also looking at it, he will also be getting some of the technology people, to also look at the technology side. Is that the most effective way of doing it? What systems, changes have to be done to any of these systems to improve on it? The thing about it is to also bear in mind that is, the past government also did some great things. So those things you will build on. The things that are not too great, you want to correct them. Some of them you might want to put aside. But for me, I think it's the posture of the minister and the strategy to say, let me review, let me look into it, let me investigate that it's a good way of doing it. And I'm hoping that, there'll be a lot of transparency in it as the work is done, so that all of us can learn from it and make sure that we can improve ourselves going forward. Governance is a continuum, and we need to ensure that we are pointing towards the best direction, and like the Japanese who say, a Kaizen way of doing things, that we are constantly improving it. So I'm happy that the minister is not taking a posture to say everything is bad and I'm just dumping them away, but actually looking at it. And let me give you a typical example. The minister has taken the AI strategy document that was developed by the past government, and that's a basis for the next stakeholder engagement that would be had, and is building upon that. Another example I can give you, the minister has taken, if you look at the NIA that we're dealing with to do SIM registration, there are some challenges with the dealing. Again, the minister has gone into this, and that is being improved. And so I think that we're on the good track, and for us as industry, we will support the minister, to be able to do all of these things. If there are some challenges, we will point it out to him and offer our suggestions as well.
Engineer, two more issues before we take leave of you this morning, and thank you so much for staying with us. Let's first talk about the SIM registration. The minister is not calling it re-registration. He says it's a SIM registration, and it will be the first time that we'll have if you like, proper SIM registration in Ghana beginning on July 1. The first one was improper, Engineer.
Well, interesting. The choice of words to the Honorable Minister. So again, the Minister has spoken about that. When we met him the first time, he broached that on a very high level. So, and I'm sure we are going to be engaging with him to get the details of it. Some of the elements of the past one was the fact that we were not able to complete. So it was only phase one that you were doing with the NIA. Then we went into the process of now collecting our own biometrics. The way we are collecting that biometrics was not the way the NIA biometrics is collected. The NIA biometrics is actually reached. What we were doing was almost like taking pictures of the non-contact ones. So that's what we're doing. And those two standards are not interoperable. So what we did was just collect those biometrics and we're sitting somewhere. We were not validating that against the single point of truth, which in law is the NIA database. And, all of that was because of the issues of, the Ministry of Interior that controlled the NIA, and then the Ministry of Communication and Digitalization, that had the NTA working on, they could not get an understanding. I can tell you that if we had done what His Excellency the Vice President had proposed earlier on, we will not be having this conversation on. So I'm hoping that with the engagement that we will have with the Honorable Minister and his team, we would be able to come up with a SIM registration that would involve, with the operators in, how we are doing it, and work together with them so that all the challenges that we had, with the previous one, the learnings from all of that, we'll be able to incorporate into this so that we can have a system that is effective, that deals with the issues of fraud, make sure that the integrity of the SIM database would be pristine, and then within that would also be a system that constantly is improving it, taking advantage of new technologies that are going to come. So I am just waiting, and there's an engagement that we'll be having with the ministry very soon on this. And then once we are done, I'm pretty sure together with the ministry, the NCA, we'll carry, the citizens of Ghana along and make sure that we do something, as the minister said, that will not be overbearing on our customers and the citizens of this country, using a lot of technology.
It brings me to my next question, and Engineer, that has to do with how this SIM registration will be carried out. So number one, is it going to be completely new? And if it is, will it be at a certain cost to the state? And while we do the SIM registration, he says he's making a pledge that will not be saddled with having to abandon work to join long queues to register the SIM cards, and it will be done with a human-centered approach and will be technologically driven as well. How would we do all of this? Because the thought of SIM registration, it unnerves many.
Yes, no, I completely agree with that, and I'm sure. So if you had the minister when he spoke at his vetting and all various conversations, he's being very clear about that. So what the question you're asking, we would get to know when we engage. Then we will know the detail. Definitely, there will be a cost involved in it. So we need to figure out what that cost is and where that is going to sit. But again, we don't just focus on cost. You also focus on value. What value is going to be created? So the whole system, we have to make sure it's also used very optimal, using the best technologies, making sure that it does not overbear the citizens, it does not overbear the parties that are going to be involved in all of that. So I am hopeful that once we engage the minister, with the experience that we have had, the SIM registration, with all the difficulties, taught us a lot of lessons. So we will bring all of those lessons onto the table when we meet with the ministry, and we do the various stakeholder engagements to ensure that we're able to deliver a SIM registration that is optimally priced, and then it's most importantly in terms of the impact on customers, very minimal, and the customer journey for our customers itself would be a sweet one.
And engineer, and this is finally from me. The minister spoke about Airtel Tigo. The state acquiring Airtel Tigo, it says Airtel Tigo was rebranded as AT, and then it was purchased for $1. That's according to the then Minister for Communication. He says it is untrue. And when it was bought, the company had a debt portfolio of $400 million. Now, the debt portfolio sits about $200 million, and that's after debt restructuring. How does Ghana pay for this debt that came about as a result of a wrong policy direction, if you like?
Well, again, so let me make this caveat. AT is a member of the chamber, so I would not discuss, the businesses of one of my members on air. But I would just say that at the end of the day, one of the challenges with all of this, the reason why, Ghana government has not been able to upload that is basically this thing that all of us sit and say, oh, data is expensive. It is because the margins, the EBITDA for telco businesses are bad, in such a way that this telco is not being attractive. We've not been able to sell it for how many years? So as we look at all of those issues of the debt overhangs and all of that, we should also be looking into making the telecom system in such a way that, the cost of doing business is not too high. Currently, at the last total tax report that the industry did, for every 1 CD that comes into the business, about 42 extras of that goes back to government as taxes, fees, levies, and charges. When you do that, how much more money would be left for an investor who is going to come to pay the interest on the loans that he would take, to be able to also pay salaries, for people, and then be able to have money to be able to reinvest? The telecommunication business is an industry that requires a lot of investment. And so if you don't create the enabling environment to attract investors, retain investors, ensure that they get a good return so that they can continue to invest, are some of the challenges that you would face. So I'm hopeful that the ministry, working together with stakeholders, will be able to find a solution for the ATC. But there's another thing that the minister mentioned, which is an interesting one for all of us as Ghanaians. In answering the question asked by one of the questioners, the issue on fiber cards, so there's some progressive work that the minister is doing in terms of considering legislation, in terms of how working together with the road ministry, other ministries, to ensure that there's protection of telecom infrastructure. And that's positive, because truth be told, last year, the industry spent over $10 million fixing fiber cards. And definitely that would go to add on to the cost of doing business. And, so definitely it would affect the reason why the industry will not be able to offer some discounts that we are all looking out for if you have that cost coming up. And then not only is the issue about cost, it's also the impact on businesses. It's also the impact of quality of service. So a lot of us, when we are complaining about quality of service, it's because of the recklessness of some of the people who, cut these fibers, people who work in the roads sector, people who are doing. Just recently, around the Dowenya thing that the minister spoke about, that he said, I have sent to him. These are aerial fiber that is up. There is a developer that has just gone and cut all the poles that are visible. And somebody like that, we are waiting, we'll definitely be taking him to court. To be able to, because this is a national saboteur. That damage that was done, we should not be surprised if somebody should have lost his life. Somebody wants to call an ambulance at that particular time. The network is down. You will not be able to call an ambulance at that time to be able to come and get somebody live here. Those are some of the things that all of us as citizens need to realize. But when you see this, you're excavating and you see a warning tape, a yellow tape or blue tape or green tape there, that tells you warning something underneath, you stop. You don't damage it. There have been situations where in the past, in Kumasi, Kumasi, a road contractor damaged 4 kilometers of water pipes in the name of making a road. So it's not only the telecommunication infrastructure that is damaged, but even water infrastructure, electricity infrastructure are all damaged in the process. And so there's some work that is being done in there. We have the National Engineering Coordinating Team that brings together all the road agencies, all the utilities and professional bodies. Some work has gone in there. We've developed, there's a guideline that we're using, the policy guideline is being revised. We'll be engaging the minister, and getting the president to launch it. And then also with all this revision to the laws that we're going to get, we have, though there are punishments already for damaging telecom infrastructure, it's going to be made more punitive. So the contractors who have the knack of just destroying telecommunication infrastructure, private developers, and all of those people, they should know that the day is coming. We've engaged with the Attorney General as well. The former Chief Justice gave us some specialized courts. So some work happening to make sure that those who disobey and damage this national infrastructure will bear the full brunt of the law.
Engineer, thank you so much for making time for us this morning. Thank you so much. I've been speaking with Engineer Ken Ashigbey, is the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications there.
The best in the morning.